Good evening, MTA Nation. We are going to start our fourth and final MTA Leadership Academy of the season. And we're very fortunate to have Chad and Jenni Greenway. Chad Greenway is a former American football linebacker who spent his entire 11-year career with the Minnesota Vikings of the National Football League. He played college football at the University of Iowa from 2002 to 2005 and was drafted by the Vikings in the first round of the 2006 NFL Draft. He attended Mount Vernon High School in South Dakota, where he played and lettered in four sports: football, basketball, baseball, and track and field. He has earned many awards throughout his career and officially retired in 2017. Jenni Greenway was also a four-sport athlete in high school and continued being a two-sport athlete at the University of Iowa in both cross country and track and field. She is currently a Lululemon ambassador and fitness coach. Together, they founded and are making a difference through Chad Greenway's Lead the Way Foundation, which has three signature programs: Tender Heart Luncheon, Field of Dreams, and Chad's Locker. Through these programs, Chad's Lead the Way Foundation has touched the lives of nearly 375,000 people in the Twin Cities. Chad and Jenni have four daughters, two of whom are current players here at MTA. Welcome, Chad and Jenni Greenway. Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, doing well.
Good. Well, like I said, I appreciate you guys being here. This is a great opportunity. This is our fourth and final, and I believe there's a lot here for our athletes to hear. Jenni, I'm going to start it off with you. At what age did you each of you start playing sports?
Initially, I started playing soccer, I think at either 4 or 5, just kind of like the rec soccer in our park district. Certainly nothing like what our girls have been through in their career. I only played that till maybe first or second grade, and then I played baseball. With my brother was a big baseball player, my sister too, and softball wasn't as popular. So my sister and I played with the boys until like third grade, and then in fifth grade I started running. Fifth grade started running cross country, and then sixth was basketball, cross country, and track. And then in freshman year of high school, I added volleyball to it. So it was volleyball, basketball, cross country, and track. So and then I did that throughout high school.
Wow. Chad, what about you?
Yeah, for me, as you mentioned, I played four sports. So in a small town in South Dakota, we didn't start super early. Certainly no club sports. So I started playing basketball in fifth grade. I guess I started playing baseball pretty young, t-ball, 5, 6, 7 years old. And that's kind of a summer-only sport in South Dakota. And then football, I didn't start playing officially until seventh grade, just because that was the earliest time we had organized football. So kind of started later in that. And of course ran track as well, which started in seventh grade. And that was one of my favorite sports. I was the youngest of three. My oldest sister made that one mandatory. I didn't have much of a choice in that one. But I ended up just loving track and all, it was just year round. So it was just football to basketball to track to baseball, just kind of on to the next. And it was just a blast, a great way to grow up.
That's cool. What were some traits or strengths that made each of you successful players at the levels?
Well, I mean, I think first off, maybe not even the younger levels, but watching the sport a ton, always being active, and never really not playing something. Like our parents were huge about like get outside. I was the youngest of three, also similar to Chad, and we both were all of our family was very into sports. Like if we were going to go out to dinner, waiting for my parents in the car, we were shooting baskets in the driveway. We were we'd play home run derby in the backyard. We'd play hot box. Was that the name of it? Or were you? Like we're always making games of something. And then always working in the off season, like leaving that season knowing whether you won or whether you lost or however the season ended, knowing what you wanted to and have your goals for the next year and working on that really when nobody's watching. I know that sounds cliche, but not doing it for all the accolades, doing it is you don't want to lose how you lost on that last season. And running a lot of individuals, you're the one that can own that loss or own those bad times. So really just being driven by not regretting your performance when you get out on the track or the court or the field. For me, I mean, I'm not sure about you, but
yeah. So for football, obviously it's hard to go out and train by yourself, but obviously lifting weights. I worked on a farm, so I grew up on the farm, and that was certainly great for functional strength and training. But I was constantly outside kicking the football to myself, throwing the ball to my dad, whatever it was, and I was a quarterback in high school. And basketball was just constant work on my own. I mean, just always kind of finding time to go out there and we had a gravel driveway and the balls bouncing all different directions and there's mud puddles, but just find a way to get the work in and practice time. And I think at all different levels, there's always a couple things that separate you no matter what level you're at. It's rarely talent. It's more work ethic. It's more your drive, your determination, your willingness to do the extra effort. And I just think those are the things that no matter what level it was, high school, college, or in the NFL, was just the little things that would separate you. So I think when you're talking to kids listening or parents, you're always, extra training, extra this. It's, well, really, you got to have a love for the sport, right? And then do all the little things well. Do all the things, if you're watching tape of yourself and video to get better, or in some cases, play another sport to get you stronger at something, another part of your game, or whatever that might be. Just always doing little things to separate yourself.
And both of you play in multiple sports. Back then it was a little different. Like, right, you get done football, you go roll into basketball, your other sports. So it wasn't like a year-round thing. So for you guys, there was always that next sport that you're looking forward to competing in.
Yeah, I think it was always one sport always kind of gave you strengths for the next sport. Football made me stronger in different ways for basketball, and basketball for track, and on and on. And I thought it was nice because you never really had the burnout. And I think that's what, a lot of kids face nowadays, is either, going and gravitating towards one sport early, which is obviously common. Almost fortunate to grow up in a time where like AAU basketball is just kind of coming along. And
in high school, it started coming around.
Yeah, junior, senior year of high school. So you've got a couple of years of it now. They're starting in fourth grade, right? Club soccer obviously starts young, and hockey starts young. So they kind of diverge your path pretty early. And that can obviously, we all know and see as adults, and kids sometimes see it as having burnout. So finding time to be a kid, finding time to do something else that's maybe not even competitive at. I know in our house, it's the same way with multiple sports, and just trying to find time to be a kid is so important.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't have the AAU stuff until I think I played AAU basketball starting my sophomore year of high school. So it was kind of nice, because at that point you knew if you wanted to be that committed or not, and you kind of knew what you were signing yourself up for with your schedule. But yeah, I liked it. I mean, being an individual sport, especially running, is cross country and track are fun, but they're a lot more stressful than like a team sport. So I always look forward leaving cross country season and having a team around me, and being more of that. We win as a team, we lose it as a team, we can work together. And then going into track, at least you have the relays that you can do that. So it was kind of nice. You had something in each sport that you look forward to. And likewise in cross country, it was kind of nice that when you won, you could feel like you owned that win. You know what I mean? It was like purely you, which is stressful, but also very rewarding at the same time. Good. I think everybody should do an individual sport at some time. We were just talking about this with our girls. We want them to do track, because there's something about owning that win or that loss that's either very rewarding or very humbling. And I think everybody should kind of experience that, because it really puts you in your place pretty quick. I mean, if you don't put the work in, it's kind of hard to go around, your talent or lack of. Yes.
You know what? Those are great points, because like you said, be a kid and get into an individual sport, because it's only going to enhance your team experience even better in trying to different things. Isn't it what life's about, is having a broad view on different things? And you guys lived it through sports. So that's good. Great advice. How was your college recruiting experiences for you guys? Obviously, you're from two different parts, South Dakota and Illinois, correct? And so then you met at Iowa. So how was that? Did you have a lot of colleges looking at you, or?
I had some colleges, like smaller colleges, looking where I could do track, cross country, and small schools to do basketball in. For track, it's a little bit different, because there's so many people that are kind of winning at the same times that you're running, in track. If you're running the 800, there's hundreds of girls that are from like 210 to 216 or whatever it would be. So a lot of that is a combination of academically, or can you get academic money, because there's so few of scholarships for the track team. Looking into it from my perspective was, if I wasn't going to get into it with only athletic, I wanted to make sure that academically it was a school that it was going to fit me and have the degree that I wanted and be the size. Like, I knew I came from a really big high school. I graduated with 850 kids. I wanted to go to a big college, so that was on my radar. And then it's very straightforward. What's your 800 time? What's your mile time? And then what's your GPA? Those kind of things. So track is very cut and dry. It's black and white. There's not a lot of coaches coming to watch you. There's no need really, those kind of things. So for me, it was pretty easy. It was the hardest part was narrowing down where I wanted to go to school and what campus fit me the best, team wise too.
One important thing maybe for your journey was just talking about the academic dollars you got and keeping grades up, and how important that is too.
For sure. I mean, like, track, I think it's like 12 or 13 scholarships. I forget what it is exactly, but they go under only track scholarships. There's no cross country. So everybody who runs cross country comes from that track pool. So when you're not going to get a ton of money, academics was huge in my family. My dad was a teacher. He always instilled grades in the first place. But and soccer is similar because there's very few full ride scholarships awarded. That now when you can combine an academic and athletic, that is a double bonus. The coach is going to love someone like that. If he or she does not have to waste their money from their athletic scholarships on you. And I say that in a way because they're so thin. You've got to really divide it out and get it to the girls that need it. If you can come in, I don't know a coach that's going to turn you away if you can come in qualifying for some academic money. I think that's a huge bonus. So we always instill that in the girls too, like coming in with multiple things the coach wants. What are you going to bring to the team besides just your athletic ability?
Yeah, I think it's important for kids and parents to realize that who haven't been through the process is so many kids, so many teammates that I had walked on, earned a scholarship while they're on campus, or maybe never earned a scholarship, but were part of a team and got to live that team experience in college, which is so unique and easily our best experience in some of our best experiences in our life. We're just being a part of a team in college, and they did it because they were academically really strong and they wanted to walk on and be a part of it. And they got in there and stayed in the program because they just worked their tails off with all the scholarship kids and hung in there, and sometimes get playing time, sometimes don't. But I know on the football team at Iowa, several guys earn full scholarships while there, or earn partial scholarships and earn playing time. So it's kind of a unique way to think about it, because everybody's thinking, oh, I'm going to be a Division I soccer player. I'm going to get, half my tuition or all my tuition paid for. Well, that's not reality for a lot of kids, the majority of kids. So think around the subject is keep your grades up. It's so important to make that a priority. And then also, what more can you do? What more do you bring to a team or a college?
Because walk-ons are a lot of walk-ons, you can come to a team and earn a scholarship throughout the years, or not even have a scholarship, be a walk-on and still compete and travel, which, and then there's kids that are a scholarship left behind. That happened in track. If a girl didn't qualify on time, that even if she's scholarship, she stayed in Iowa City while the rest of us traveled, even walk-ons that were running faster. But
yeah, so for my recruiting journey, it was pretty, I grew up in a small town in South Dakota, had about 26 kids in my graduating class. I played 9-man football. Nobody was coming to watch us play. And I got really lucky. I had a couple colleges that were looking at me. I was literally, for you parents listening, I was dubbing VHS tapes during study hall, sending out recruiting videos, just trying to get noticed by anybody, and nobody was really paying attention. And there was a former Iowa player that lived in South Dakota that watched me play my championship game of my senior year. And he called Coach Ferentz at Iowa, was like, you need to come look at this kid. And they watched some tape. They asked for more tape. They came and saw me at my school. And then I eventually got an offer. So really, I think the lesson there is team success is so important, whether it be high school or obviously club in this case. Having a really good club team and you get to be a part of that was so unique. And that was really how I got noticed, because if my team wasn't very good and we got beat out in the playoffs of our 9-man league, the reality is I wouldn't have been noticed. I wouldn't have been seen, and I'd be farming right now, which is great. But I prefer to have the route I did. So I got one scholarship offer. I got one Division I offer from Iowa. I had a couple walk-on offers to Nebraska. The Gophers never called, so I didn't have an option to go there. And at that time, South Dakota State and USD and all those schools that are now at Division I in a lot of sports were D2, which was a great conference. But I really had the goal of playing, big time football, or what I deemed big time football at the time. And so I took that scholarship and just ran with it. It was I was really fortunate to be right place, right time, the right coaching staff, and I went there as a quarterback, and I eventually moved to linebacker, in my first year.
Well, those are two great stories, and Iowa plays is a special place. If you've never been down there, I had a daughter that graduated from University of Iowa, and a great place, a great campus and school. You kind of done it about handling the process, but were there any certain reasons for choosing University of Iowa for you?
It's pretty easy for me. Selection of one. It was interesting because Iowa wasn't very good at the time. They had won like one game and the year before, maybe 2. So it wasn't like it was this high profile program. It was obviously historically a good program, but it hadn't been good for a decade. And, but for me, it was just all about proving myself. I mean, I was kind of, nobody recruited me, no expectations. I was kind of the underdog, which was such an advantage. And then when I went to campus, again, realized how fortunate I was, and just, it was an opportunity every day. Cause I think the one thing that the kids and parents think about is you get recruited, I made it, oh, it's over. Well, that's actually when it gets hard, because then you have everybody there on campus, and it's all you. Now you're vying for playing time. Now you're vying for minutes. You're vying for snaps. You just get on the practice field so you can be noticed. I mean, that's where the challenges start.
Mm-hmm.
So you get your scholarship, you get there. Then it was like, well, how do I separate myself now? You're out there doing drills when, you know, it's easy to do it one day and then 1 week, but can you stack week after week after week while following along with school and getting your study work done and chasing girls? So, I mean, you know, it's one of those things that it's one of those things though that you it's a balancing act. And I think a lot of people say, oh, I got a scholarship to go here, XYZ place, it's over. Well, no, that's when the work starts.
Well, then we saw that. I mean, I saw girls come in with scholarships where they ran their fastest times in high school and either never really competed in college, or they did, and it was poor because they just weren't putting in the work and they thought that those times were just going to continue. For me, going to Iowa, my brother and sister were athletes at Indiana and Purdue, and I loved the Big Ten. Like, I just liked it. I didn't really want to leave the Midwest. I wanted my parents to be able to travel and see. My whole high school, I felt like went to University of Illinois, so I wanted to get away from that a little bit. And then if you go to University of Iowa, if you've ever been to campus, I don't know how, I love it. I mean, it's beautiful. It was smaller of the Big Ten schools, so it didn't feel so overwhelming. Not too far from home. And then you've got to find a fit with the coach. Like, where are you at? Like, who's on the team? Are there a lot of seniors? Are there a chance for you to compete? Are you going to go there with a chance to compete? Or are there a million people in front of you that you're never going to get a chance to travel or do whatever? You got to weigh that. And how do you vibe with the team? Like, you're going to meet the girls, and I don't know if they still let you, but we stayed in dorms that night, and then you like get to see like a day in the life. And I loved my coach. It ended up changing my sophomore year. But you have to, that all has to go well together. If you go and you don't click with the coach or click with the team, take that feeling, because it's going to be a long 4 years and they're your family for the next 4 years. So you want to make sure that you make a good choice in that way. But yeah, and going off of the competing, there's in track, at least, and football is obviously different and team sports are different, but for track, before every race, I mean, we're looking at times what you ran the last time, and those girls travel, and there's only 2 people on each event in track. So you're competing with your teammates in a good way, but you're having race offs at practice to get to Big Tens. Like, I think I PR'd my mile in a race off to get to Big Tens in college. Like, that's how it gets. But you have to know that, and you have to be okay with competition. You have to still be able to get beat by a teammate and still be a teammate. And I think that that's what a lot of kids, and I had girls on my team that were not, nobody ended up, they didn't work with a team. They'd quit or they do something because they couldn't swallow that pill of losing and then still being a team at the end of the day. So you can't go in cocky, because everybody's good when you get to college. I mean, right? You'll get put in your place quick if you go in too cocky, I think.
Now, that's great, great advice. Along the way, did you see some strong leadership from anyone, and who and why was it good leadership in your eyes? Because we're always looking for those people to kind of drive us. I think internally you have to have it, but there's some great leaders out there in our life.
I think the best leaders I had were people that understood how I thought and could really motivate me to do more and really challenge me. And for me, it was always like, just tell me I can't do something, I'm going to show you how many times over I can. For me, my high school basketball coach and at the time baseball coach was the complete difference maker for me, because coming from a small town, you had to have people that believed in you, believed in your ability, believed in a bigger picture. Because not a lot of kids at all had gone onto the NFL or even Division I football from where I grew up. So he was the one that instilled in me that it was possible and that I could do it. And I was different, and I was going to be like the others that kind of fizzled out or couldn't make it. In college, it was our strength coach. I mean, Chris Doyle, he just would demand the best of you every day, and he would do it over and over and over. And the expectation was always really high, and the culture always stayed there. And when you have a guy that really determines the culture and just requires you to do it every day, you then become a leader in that culture. And then you are the ones that curate, that culture and that mentality. And I think that's so huge, to have one person to set the tone, and then your leaders take that over. And then all of a sudden the coach can step back and say, well, this is your team. This is your culture. This is what you created. this really has nothing to do with me anymore. And I think that's when you get a program. I think you talk about MTA and the program you guys are running. It's about creating the culture, getting the right people on board, and then the kids, the families kind of control that. And that becomes why you become so strong, I guess, in my case.
Yeah. No, I mean, I totally agree. And for me, I started running in 5th grade because it was the only sport at my elementary school to do. And it was my coach. He coached me through 8th grade, 5th through 8th grade in cross country, track, and basketball. And he was the one that was like, there's something there, that gave me the confidence, like, oh, like I didn't realize I was a good runner. You know what I mean? I didn't know what time, I know what times, whatever. But he really instilled, and there was 2 of us on the team, me and this girl, Michelle, who ended up running at Northern Illinois. He always treated us a little different. He pushed us harder. He expected more out of us. And at that time, you didn't really, sometimes I complain, and our girls sometimes say the same, like, but I think it was that extra attention that he knew he could get more out of us. So he could be a little harder on us in a very good way. He was fun, great coach, but he always would challenge us. And he'd say, like, that was good. Now, what if you did it in this time? Or now, what if you did one more? What if you take it wide? Or, he would always give us that little more. And, as a kid, you're like, okay, yeah, like I want that challenge. And then we would do it together. And then when he stopped coaching me in 8th grade, she came to the same high school as me. And I think we didn't have the best coach in high school. But so we became kind of each other's, like, let's do this, like, let's go. And we would push, and we pushed each other. And we were always just right there because we knew where we wanted to go, and we knew we needed to do it with each other. Or we did, can we run with the boys? And, whatever, we'd always want to be like, we'd like be a little tag team against each other to go. So that was it through elementary school and high school. And then in college, the coach that came in my sophomore year was awesome. We still keep in contact with him. And him and his wife came, and they were our coaches. And they were, again, the ones that were like, that just silently knew how to deal with that. They knew what made everybody tick. And they used that to your advantage and really kind of self-motivated you by just giving you that confidence and giving you that you got this. Like, you put the hard work in, now go, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you have any tips on being a good leader or a teammate? Because, obviously we play in competitive sports and everyone's, trying to get the best out of it. But, it's a team sport sometimes, unless you're doing the individual. And there's times when you need to pick up your teammates, and, other times that you have to, maybe be a little stern and try to work through an issue.
Yeah, I think some good examples. It's always hard for a leader to find their voice, especially if they're younger. Like in the NFL, for example, you're a rookie, and it's hard to tell a 12-year vet that what you're going to do or what the expectation is. I think in the kids that are listening, or the parents that are listening, you're all in the same age group. You're all kind of on the same playing field and same level. So it can be even more challenging for a kid to step out of that role and say, I'm going to hold my teammates accountable. I'm going to make sure they get, checked in a positive way during the game, and make sure we're playing at a certain tempo. But, I think, like, when you're talking about kid sports, when you're all in one age group, it's, again, at practice, you set the tone for who you're going to be as a team, what the expectation is. And then I always think it's really important for the coaches to communicate out that it's okay to communicate, and the coach should be able to take a step back, whether it be a practice or in a game, and let the kids, especially when you get talking U13 and U14 and up, when these kids really understand the game and how it should work, it should become the kids to be able to communicate on the field, right? And once they can take that over and the coach empowers them, the leaders can really, really show up and really can use their voice. And I think it's really important then for coaches to say, what's the right and wrong way to use your voice, right? Negative tone, throwing your hands up, like bad body language. Those are the things that I'm sure, I don't know the soccer world that well, but I know college coaches are looking for those things. They're looking at the bad body language and say, I don't want that on my team. They're looking for positive encouragement. They're looking for communication on the field that matters. Because sometimes, let's be honest, when you're competing, sometimes it doesn't come across as like nicey nice when you're competing, right? Because you need to get, that forward needs to go up and attack or press the ball or whatever. But it's that active communication where the team's not being offended by the words that are being used or the communication. It's more of a tool that they've generated over practice time to know that, that's my friend, and she's telling me or helping me, or he's telling me and helping me to go make sure I can do my best, our team can win. And then you walk off the field and say, hey, that was us competing, right? Now we're friends. I think that's one thing where, I've seen in our own girls is like when you go through the ages of U9, 10, 11, 12 and up, it's being okay to use your voice and not come across as like some cattiness or something like that. It's a fine line, but I think it starts with the coaches and then empowers the kids to take it. And then that's the teams that I've seen have really worked the best.
When it's your tone. I mean, the tone's not always going to be perfect, but you've got to give it, game time situation is a little bit different because you might be worked up or whatever. But, if somebody does something wrong, like noting that what they did wrong isn't going to help anything. They did it wrong. They know they did it wrong. Everyone knows they did it wrong. Tell me you got it. Let's go. Encourage them, get it next time or whatever you're going to do, recover, do whatever, or, if you're not, I don't know, in basketball, so you're not shooting well. Well, make sure you're doing defense out of this league today. You know what I mean? And encourage them to keep doing other stuff. Don't harp on the bad part. Pick something that they're doing positive and put on that to reinforce them, because everybody knows if they're doing bad, if you just keep piling on, it's not going to help.
Yeah, I think with leaders too, is a lot of times you show up, you work hard, you may not say a word to your teammates, and you say, well, player X, they work really hard every day, but that doesn't really make them a leader, in my opinion. Like, you might be leading the drills and working hard. That's a part of that. But it's also kind of just doing what you're told. It's doing what the coach is asking. But when can you take that leadership role and take the next step to say and direct teammates in a positive way, encouraging way, helpful way, to really bring the team together? To me, that's what really is being a leader. And I think it starts with leaders of those teams, which means the coaches. And I think you got to let them kind of have that voice and develop it over practice time.
That's good stuff. Thank you, guys. As parents who played sports at a high level, how do you approach your kids playing sports now? Obviously, you have an active life. You just talked about that. 4 daughters, basketball, soccer. Most of the sports are playing year-round.
Yep.
And then just being a kid. How you guys manage it?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, there's several days where you're going from soccer to basketball, basketball to soccer. Then we have 2 younger ones as well, 7 and 5, and you don't want to sacrifice those kids' opportunities to play soccer or basketball, whatever they're doing, and all while having fun. So it's a balancing act. I mean, we're all over the place pretty much every night trying to figure it out. Then all the while making sure we have, family dinners, for example, right? Jenny always does such a great job of having food on the table that we can sit down as a family and eat and really kind of center yourselves around that. Have a conversation about school or whatever's going on, and then go off to your activities, and be a part of that journey. I mean, I don't think we run at a high temperature. I mean, we
our
love.
Whole family's pretty aggressive, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And both of our extended families are pretty aggressive also. And I mean that in a good way. Where I think that there's so much energy, and I think that everything we do turns into a competition, but I don't think the kids view it as like they'll be putting in work downstairs doing stuff, but they don't even view it as work. Like our 5-year-old just came up to him yesterday and she was, we gotta go down to the basement, put up shots. We gotta do our work.
Yeah.
And he was going to eat something for lunch. And she was like, oh, just annoyed with him. But I think that when you make it part of your daily life and they see us, we work out, we do different stuff, we go on bike rides, we do all these things. And when they see that activity, not as punishment or not as things we have to do, we get to go do these things. I think it is different. I do think that each kid is a little bit different. Also, our oldest one, she tends to be the one that we have to say, okay, you got to take it back a step. You do have to be a kid at some point in your life and you need to do stuff with your friends. And then our second one is more maybe we don't need to have, the 3 sleepovers in a row or, those kind of things. So I think there's going to be, every kid's going to be a little bit different where you've got to ebb and flow on keeping those balanced and making sure that if they have goals, they meet them. But they also have that time where they're not going to look back and regret their childhood and think I did all of this and we're done at 22 or whatever when you're done with college. What do I have left? You know what I mean? That kind of.
Well, I think one important thing for us in the house is we do love to, whatever sport they're in, we love to go out and be a part of that. So we're practicing soccer, we're practicing hoops, or we're running around or whatever it is. And I always think that there's the easy way to burn out your kids is to say, go train, right? Go train on your own, go in the backyard and juggle, whatever that might look like. But when you go with them and then you make it a game and make it fun, and then they're getting some touches in or they're getting some reps in and they don't realize that they're actually working hard at it, it becomes fun, it becomes a family activity. And
a few fights here and there.
Yeah, of course you can have some fights, but to me as a parent, if I can give them that where I'm helping them realize their goals and inch closer to those goals, all while not being a crazy person, but engaging with their sport and helping them. To me, that's what it's all about. And we certainly have had our moments. I mean, there's moments when you get frustrated because you are driving all over the place and you show up to something and they Beckett just forgot her cleats. I drove all the way to Richfield, forgot her cleats, and I wanted to snap somebody. But everybody on the call has done that or had it happen, and you get frustrated as a parent because you got so many balls in the air at one time.
Well, I think we really try to not get in the car and harp on the game that we just played. Like, especially the ages that they're becoming, they already know what was good or bad in the game. There's really no need to get in the car and sit there and point out what they did wrong. Because at the end of the day, we both have said this, they're way past the skill that we were at that level. And when you have to realize that it's not going to be perfect, and there's times where they play phenomenally and you're like, holy cow. And then you're like, oh my gosh, they're 14. And that is a baby. You know what I mean? You kind of forget about it. So I think we do a pretty good job of like just like letting it go in the car, and we'll try to change the subject. Like, no need to really bring down their confidence more. If it was a crappy loss, let it cool off. And they'll be like, well, how do you think you played? Or, we'll do it later. Or sometimes we just don't ever talk about it at all. If it's, everybody's the kids are too upset about it or whatever. But I think we don't try, especially him coaching. You're already on the sideline talking the whole time during basketball games. So you don't want to get in the car and be the coach in the car too.
And that's a great point, because that's a hot topic right now about those car rides,
Yeah.
and what does that look like? And I really like the fact that, like you said, don't just push them to train, be active in their kids' life. Most of the times, that's what our kids want. They want us to be present. They want us to be a part of it. So good stuff.
I think one thing we're not saying, because we leave games and we're wildly frustrated, right? Whatever reason. I mean, maybe how your kid played or the situation or just bad luck. But I mean, we're so competitive, like so many parents are, and that's why we're doing this, right? We're competitive, our kids are competitive, but you always have to look at yourself and be like, this is not about me. I got to take myself out of this. And that one game, it's not going to matter in the long run. If you're U16, U17, and you're at a showcase and things don't go well, you might have a different mentality around it. But for the most part, 99% of these games, you can come back the next game and have a better opportunity. And so it's just like learning that. And we've gotten better, over the years, because let's face it, we're all competitive. That's why we're doing it. So it can be a challenge.
Well, last week, our sixth grader lost the state championship for basketball in overtime. And so that happened, obviously we get in the car, we go home. We were talking to a friend this week. I'm like, but it was a really good game, like a really good game. Like, they learned so much. And I look over and she goes, I didn't want to learn anything. I just want to win the state championship. And I'm like, you get that at 11 years old. That's all they're focusing on. But, we always tell them, like, nobody cares necessarily where you were at this March date in 2022. Your goal is, it's going to last all the way through your senior year of high school. It should just be on the upward trajectory. It's going to have its downs, but it should generally be going up. And we always just try to reinforce that. Like, it's not, you're going to have good and bad, especially a soccer game's a long game. Basketball is a long game. There's going to be a lot of mistakes, but just don't make the same ones over and over. If you make one, correct it, come back and do the best you can. We always say did you try? That's our first question. Were you trying? Well, then if you were trying and it didn't pan out, what else can you do really for that day other than come back and work on what wasn't working for you?
Yeah, that's great stuff. What are your values you believe are important to teach our kids when they're playing sports? Because sometimes it's not all about the winning, but what they're about that's going to help them later in life.
Yeah, I think I can remember this is back when Madden was probably U9, U10, and we drove up to Blaine, and we, that dog and pony show up in Blaine at one of these big tournaments. And we got up there like 8 a.m. for a 8:30 game or something. You turn yourself inside out to get there. We've all parents have been there. All kids have been there. And I can remember she was just not giving her best effort, right? She was not doing everything full speed. And I can remember one of the only times we've had this conversation was like, I refuse to go spend my weekends or my nights if you're not going to give full effort all the time. Because really, that's all we can ask our kids to do, right? Is play your heart out, play as hard as you can, leave it all out there. And at the end of the day, like, if you lose, what more can you give? There's nothing else you can do, right? Yeah, you can make a play here or there, but at the end of the day, if you're given everything and you've trained and you've earned a spot on that team and you're a part of it, like, what more can you ask of that kid? And I just think that's one thing we always focus on is your best effort's always going to be good enough, but just make sure you're doing everything you can. Mm-hmm. And we've both learned several lessons over our sports careers of times where you look back at a game or a situation, say, could I have given a little bit more? Could I have done something extra? Could I have trained a little harder? And that answer is unfortunately always yes.
But if it's really big and then you have that regret, there's times where I know I'm like, I didn't train, I just didn't prep properly. I was out late or something, in high school when I didn't think it was that big of a deal, or I would be fine or whatever, and you look back and like, I just don't want them to look back at that and be like, gosh, I could have, would have, or whatever, and you're going to have those moments no matter what, to an extent. but in general, that you really gave it your all. Because it could be over in high school, it could be over in junior high. I mean, some sports are going to be done, if you choose to do a single sport later on. So you want to make sure you're just not leaving there regretting whatever you did. You put in all the hard work, you might as well do your best at the competition. Don't you? And I even think, I've talked about this with the girls too. When I went on job interviews graduating college, if they see you're an athlete, they want to know about time management, about leadership, about work ethic, those kind of things. And those are the three things you can control in sports: your work ethic, how you manage game time situations, how you treat your teammates, those kind of things. And always focus on what you can control. You're not going to control if the ball goes in the net. You're not going to control how the defender plays or whatever, but you can control you. And that's all you have to worry about in a game. The other stuff is just going to be, that's always going to be a roll of the dice. So just focus on that. And then,
I think one last thing to that too is obviously I played a team game for a long time in the NFL, and what you realize is when you are part of that team, it goes all the way down to team sports now at the youth level, is you got to look at the other players on the team or on the field to say, was I giving my best effort? Because not only are you letting yourself down, you're letting your whole team down, right? And that's the benefit of a team game, right? Is soccer the ultimate team game, right? You have to have a language, onto itself by just movement and the ball and everything else. And if you're not giving best effort, then you got to look at the other 10 and be like, that's on me. Well, you don't want to have to answer those guys. You want to be able to be the one to say, I gave everything for this team. And you want to be able to walk up the field, and you can always hold your head high. I don't care what the score is at the end.
Do you guys have a little extra time if I open it up to the club and those on there to answer some Q&A questions from them?
Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
So if anyone has a question, please put it in the Q&A. I want to talk about, before we open up the Q&A, see some questions come in. One of the things that I was very impressed by was the foundation and the people's lives that you've touched. Can you explain why it's so important for the two to make a difference throughout the community?
Yeah, I think we both had great examples of parents growing up that gave back to the community in different ways and gave back to kids. And so when we got drafted to the Vikings, they were very good about put us in touch with Brad Madsen, the community director, and wanting to get out in the community and kind of use your platform. And then you realize when you're in that position that you can really make a massive impact. You can really impact people's lives. And so when we had Madden, in 2007, we realized we wanted to focus on kids and families that suffer childhood diseases. And we started the Lead the Way Foundation in 2008. And then we've just been working with, a number of different hospitals across not only the metro here in the Twin Cities, but North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and just identifying families and hospitals in need. Our locker program is in 9 hospitals now in the Midwest. We have our Tender Heart Luncheon, which services all the moms that have sick children. So we have up to 350 moms that come to our Tender Heart Luncheon, in a year at US Bank Stadium, and those moms, have either in some cases have lost a kid, have a kid that's suffering, or have had a kid that's newly diagnosed, or maybe they've gotten past, and they've improved. So that's a great event, and we just try to impact as many families and people as we can. We realize how lucky we are to have the platform and the time. What's been amazing is I've been retired for 5 years, and our foundation has just gotten stronger and stronger as we've gone on, which is a good sign to know that we're doing something right.
And you guys do that together and started it, and it probably, I'm guessing it transfers to the family. So the family's around it and gets to see the good work that's being done for others.
Oh, for sure. Now that COVID's been here, it's been limited, obviously, because we can't get in the hospitals and get to see those families. But before then, we'd bring the girls. We had a Field of Dreams also, where we host families at the Mall of America, and we go and ride the rides with them. And half the time, our girls are riding rides with kids they have no idea have some sort of terminal illness, or whatever it would be, chronic, whatever it is that they're there for. And it's so nice to see our kids engaging with these kids, and they're just all having fun. Nobody cares. Everything else on there in the backstory is out the window. They're just kids being kids all together. And as the older ones have gotten older, and then we'll explain to them, a family, maybe what was wrong with that kid. And they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. And, they realize how fortunate they are also. And then we explain to them, like, we have X amount of money, but there's so many people in the community that want to give, that don't know how to give. And now I feel like we become that outlet for a family that maybe only has, I don't care what you can donate, but then now they have a place they can donate it. We can put it to good use. We can multiply. We have donors that match some of our family donations. We have corporate donors that match those. So it really is doing your best to do your little piece of the pie of the community that you live in and being able to make it so much bigger to serve so many more. Our
Nice.
dog's trying to get in on that.
Hey, I see we got a special guest. That's awesome.
Yeah. He wants his duck back.
Yeah.
Oscar Ramirez has 2 questions. How much time do you train weekly? And what is a healthy amount of time to train and balance family?
Yeah, I mean,
We're the same.
yeah, I mean, I think it's I guess every kid's different. I mean, when I was playing, and you still train at a high level. I don't train as much anymore. But when I was playing, obviously it was your whole life is around football and the game, and you're training your body, and then you always have to find that time to say, okay, I'm going to put work away. I'm going to come home and be a dad and be a husband. I think with our kids now, you have to kind of help them educate what is healthy, what is appropriate, because they have so many things going on, and some of these kids are motivated, want to train all day and all night. And I think, like Jenni had said, our oldest Madden, like with playing the multiple sports, she's up this morning before school to practice basketball. She goes to school all day. She has basketball practice after school for her high school team. And then, most nights she'd be able to make soccer practice. So
it's going like 7 in the morning to like 9 at night. And, at times we're like, it's fine because it's just a small piece of the year. But like normally, that's excessive. If it was not just a small piece, I would say that needs to be, because I feel like if you kept at that pace, 365, 7 days, it's going to be injured. You're going to be burnt out. It's just going to be too much. So finding that piece of where are you doing it, where it's becoming down in the gym for 2+ hours, it's a little excessive, right? Like you should be able to kind of do it something like a workout. You should be able to do it, go down there and be time efficient. Plan it out before you go down. That way you're not wasting time between drills. So you're not wasting 2 hours down there. You get a solid workout done in an hour, 45 minutes, whatever. But I like planning it out ahead of time. I think that's it for people I'm type A and I tend to get kind of obsessive about stuff. For me, I plan my days off. I plan my days on. And I did this even when I was an athlete. So that way, if I had a day off, I didn't feel guilty about having a day off, because you do need days off. There's days where you need to give your body a break, especially if you're training for something like running, but every sport really, or a day that's just easy, right? Something's for fun. And having those planned ahead of time, that way the kid knows, you know what you're doing. And again, if you've carved out downtime, you don't feel guilty. And at the same time, you can look and see, okay, if I wanted to touch the ball X amount of minutes, how can I put that over these 7 days? If I want to, you're doing ball work, then you're doing cardio, maybe you're doing strength, find out your total time and then divide it out and make sure you set times. That way you have your family time, you have your friends time, those kind of things. Because homework. I mean, all of it, right? The kids have a lot on their plate when you're talking about this, but I like a good schedule. I feel like it makes them feel balanced and kind of like, okay, I got this, like each week at a time, it's down there and they've got it under control.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, is when a kid has an understanding of what the schedule is going to be and how they can lay it out throughout the week, it makes it so much easier, less stressful, and they get more productive too, because they know they only have a half hour to get as many touches in, or juggling, whatever it might be for soccer. I think the one thing that I would be really cautious of is, especially since we're not new to the soccer, you played soccer when you were little, and I never played soccer at all. One thing I've noticed with a lot of soccer families, and it's no different than us, is when you do go directly to say, I'm going to play soccer full time, is don't forget like what makes you a great soccer player. Yes, it's your ball, your touches, your ball handling, your juggling, but your ability to run. Your ability to run is the single most important weapon of really any sport that we do. If it's hoops or football or whatever, I mean, your ability to run, your ability to move in space really becomes the most important attribute you could have. And even if it's not genetically given to you, there's ways to improve that. Running form is so important. First step is so important. So I think, to add that in, not that you want to add something else, but rather than training soccer 7 days a week with touches every day, maybe you do layer in running workouts. Go see a guy or see a specialist that knows how to train running, right? We all know we all know YouTube and all things we can go watch. You can go watch anything online right now and learn the proper way to teach your kid how to run, what's important, first step, quickness. That to me in sport is the most important thing.
It's good. Well, I want to say thank you to both of you. Obviously, of giving your time for this Leadership Academy, which I think is very important. We record all of them, so they will be on our website. We've had 4 since we started this, because we thought this was an important piece. We've had 8 speakers, and this is our final one for the year. So we'll be out there in a week. The last one, looking back, you're now a little bit older. You've been through your part of it. You're doing it through your kids. Any advice for any of the young kids out there that you would say so they go achieve their dreams?
Well, I think the most important thing is don't look at the goal at the very end of the rainbow. I would say look at little goals, year by year, step by step, day by day. I know that was what really helped me is just trying to knock one day off at a time and be as good as I could that day, especially for the younger kids. And they have these goals and dreams. As a parent, it's not your job to kill that dream. It's not your job to talk about statistics and numbers and all those things. It's your job to put them in the right spot, right frame of mind to go attack those dreams. Because we all know that even if you try as hard as you can, you don't make it, you've achieved a lot of great things along the way. I know for me, like I told my dad at a very young age, I want to play professional sports. And he never said, well, Chad, this is how many guys from South Dakota make it to the NFL. I mean, I don't think I would have wanted to hear those stats when I was 7 or 8 years old. But I just kept ticking away and ticking them off. And he never said I couldn't. And then, just that mindset of achieving one goal at a time and really thinking short rather than long is probably the easiest way to do it. And I think a lot of parents get caught up too on, I got to get my kid recruited. I got to train this many days a week. I got to do all that. Well, really just show incremental improvement day after day after day, enjoy it. And you're going to achieve a lot of things.
Yeah. And I would say, like, set goals. Like, set stuff that you maybe think you can't hit. Set things that you're like that would even shock yourself to do it. And that's more of like the running world. But even whatever it would be, you want to be all conference, little stuff throughout that can, like he said, you chip away at the top. But also, like, don't be afraid to also just put the naysayers aside. Like, you don't need, like, going to college. You don't need to be the fastest runner in America to go to college. You don't need to be the best soccer player in the world to go to college. Do your best. Put everything out there. Make sure that it's all coming along with it, though. You're developing as a human, not just an athlete. And we tell our girls, it's like, being a good athlete is amazing. Being a good human is first and foremost. I do believe good things come to good people. So when you're playing a sport, like, act like how you would want to be represented when people are watching you, because they are watching you at every step of the way. And the younger people below you are watching you. You're becoming a leader for those kids. Because when you look back at the end of it, and it's all said and done, if you got a scholarship or if you didn't, you don't want to be that kid that never had friends on the team. You don't want to be the kid that nobody in your conference, like, when you go to college, you're going to run into all these people that you played with against. You could be teammates. You don't want to be that kid that people are like, yeah, they were good, but gosh, they were just, no, like, nobody liked them. You know what I mean? And it's not all about being liked, but certainly that's where you want to be. When I'm 38 looking back at my sports, I have a lot of good memories. I have a lot of good friends. It'd be sad if I was just like the enemy of all my teammates. And I know that's kind of more going the friendship route, but I think you will end up going where you are meant to be. It will all work out if you're a good athlete. Don't forget to be a good person, along the way.
Great advice. From the MTA Nation, thank you guys. Thanks for being flexible and open like this and honest. And I think this is great stuff for our athletes and our parents and coaches and everyone to hear. So thank you. And I appreciate your time tonight.
You bet.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
See you guys.
Bye.